what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Udoka's Take. So we're 3 days into free agency, right? I believe 3 days. I could be wrong, but today we got Jordan, Terry, Robert for the first time in like 50 years, and myself. I was gonna talk about free agency, different trade rumors, and the draft recap. Forgot about draft. So we're gonna start off with this man, Sonic's old retro number 35, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And now it looks like the Brooklyn Nets, that big three, the potential dynasty, future of the NBA, it looks like they're going to be broken apart. Well, obviously Harden's gone, but no, Kyrie wants out, and now KD wants out. So let's start with KD because he's better. So we'll start with KD.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you guys think KD's gonna go?
Honestly, I can't give you a definite answer for that question. What I can say though is, if I'm KD, I'm thinking about teams like the Heat and all the markets that or can go to. What do you think KD's gonna go for, bro?
The Jazz won that trade.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that though. We're talking about KD.
Yeah.
So like I said, if I'm KD, I'm making sure I get to a team that can benefit me, and I think that he can do that best. Honestly, we've needed that superstar for a while now. Jimmy Butler cannot drop 60 points to win a finals or any series in the playoffs anymore. We need somebody to carry the load as far as the offense goes. But we're definitely gonna have to give up some people. I say start off with Duncan. I say give up Duncan, Depot, and some picks, and I think you got KD.
I feel like for Miami, the most realistic option is it's going to be a big name player. One of either Hero or Bam is going to leave, and I don't want either to leave because I love both of them. Both are great players, great futures. But realistically, the Nets are smart. One of those two is going to leave. Then Duncan, I feel like whether it's Donovan Mitchell or KD, whoever, he's going to be a part of the trade regardless. Because, I mean, we saw in the playoffs, paid him that big money and his minutes plummeted. So he's going out the window. Then I feel like maybe a Lowry could be thrown in there, maybe Gabe Vincent. Then Omar Yurtseven, I hate to say it, but he's probably going to go too, although I would prefer if Dwayne Dedman left instead of Yurtseven because I love Yurtseven. Yurtseven, when he plays, he does great. So that's why I like him. But yeah, one of those young players, either Hero or Bam, is going to go if we got KD. Remember, I saw
Honestly,
something.
bro, I feel like we should keep Hero. He kind of like our young a part of key part of our young core. I feel as if you take him away, you just take away and if you put Tyler Hero on a KD's wing, I think that'll be perfect for especially in Tyler Hero's case. But yeah, I say don't trade Tyler Hero. I say go strictly for Lowry. And I'm gonna take Oladipo back because he does know how to play defense. Like if he's not playing well, he'll definitely do well on the other end of the floor. So just take him out of that trade or whatever you got. So Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, and some picks, and then you got KD. I think.
Obviously, like we've heard Miami and the Suns are the big two, but I think it was yesterday or today, I don't remember. I saw something about KD going, like Golden State rumors are back for KD, and I was like, oh, well, they just want to chip. Of course, like. No, it's KD, so why wouldn't he want to go back? But then when I saw the players that were in there that would go to Brooklyn, it was Poole, Wiggins, Wiseman, and some picks. And in my head, I was like, I'm Brooklyn. Out of all the offers they might see, that's the best one. That's the best one.
And I think that's the best one, but it's very tricky. It's like we haven't seen Wiseman at least 50 games into the season.
Right. We haven't. He's going to be in his third year when we barely see him touch the floor. So Wiseman could be the X factor, but I feel like Wiggins showed who he truly is, and he was amazing. Now that could be because I'm on a team with Steph Curry, so the spotlight's on him. Then it's me, so I don't have to worry as much. That could be the issue, or it could just be that he's just a great player. Could be one or the other. Could be both.
I mean, yeah, I agree with Terry. It could be a risky decision to give up. Wait, you said it was? Yeah, I think it's risky. Specifically because of Andrew Wiggins. We've seen what he does when he's on a team by himself. For example, when he was on the Wolves, he didn't, everybody was calling him top 10 bust all time. Now look at him. He's won a championship. And it may be just because he's just next to the limelight with Stephen Curry. Once all that pressure was taken off of him, he could finally fit and he can finally be a role player. And that's what he did along with Curry. I think he's one of the top 25 best two-way players in the league, honestly, in my opinion. But yeah, it would be risky as far as Andrew Wiggins' case, because like, will he be able to lead the Nets if they come up with that trade? You know what I mean? Will he be able to lead the Nets even to a playoff run? Are they even you know what I mean? So that's the kind of questions you got to ask yourself. If you're the Nets, are you trying to rebuild so quickly after, Harden, uh, 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 KD, and Kyrie left? You know what I mean? Um, as far as the Nets, though, I think I think what destroyed the team is the amount of, I'm not gonna cuss because I'm just gonna say butt kissing that the GM did with KD. KD wanted these guys, and then they got all these guys, and then it didn't work, and then they just leaving. You know what I mean? Like LeBron, I don't think LeBron has ever demanded a trade ever in his career. Like when he's on a team, he wins.
Yeah.
Like he goes to teams that don't have a lot of wins or don't have more than 30 wins and wins championships with those teams and leaves off of his contract, like off of his free agency contract, instead of demanding for a trade. Like I've never seen him leave a team ever like that, like in that fashion. You know what I mean? So KD, Kyrie, and Harden are all amazing players. I just don't like the way they go about things as far as the off season, as far as off the court. What I think originally destroyed the team was the joining of James Harden. I feel like that team was already solid when it was just KD and Kyrie, and then Harden joined, and then the problem started to flesh out. Right now, I got Harden. Let me get Steve Nash, no experience. Like, let me get DeAndre Jordan, doesn't know how to play the game of basketball. You know what I mean? They got all these guys that serve no purpose for the past 3 seasons, and it kind of has fleshed out as a legacy kind of legacy. I'm going to say legacy depleter for all those three guys: Harden, Kyrie, and KD.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because it's like, with the Nets, it's an iffy situation. Like, and it's not only that, but I feel it's like the contract nowadays is definitely hard to build your team to the contracts that these superstar players are getting. So it's like, it's not only you're asking for that, but like when you get those players, you get like multiple superstar players, you can't really build your team off. And it's like that almost every sport it is. But it's like mainly like in this sport, when you overplay a player, not saying they don't deserve the money, it's just hard to build a team around. So what that does is that it feels as though it's everybody's ego up now. Like I'm the
Yeah,
highest paid player now. Yeah, there's nobody guarding me. I'm prove to you why that. Not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but like you got to come down to a level where it's like, all right, I got to take at least a couple down money down so I can build pieces around me. Like I don't think none of those players take into consideration is that when it comes to like bringing other players in that have star talent.
yeah. And here's the thing with Kyrie. Like, Kyrie is one of the best, if not the best skilled player in the league ever, honestly. But um, the thing is with him is he gonna play? You don't want to give him like around 30 plus $1 million if he's just not gonna play. If he's not gonna play more than 40, 50 games, like the whole season, you want him to play. You want him to do what he does on a day to day, on a game to game basis. So like I think teams are kind of hesitant of that when trying to get him. And that's what the Nets were hesitant of. They were like, they didn't give him the money he wanted because they felt as though in order for us to give you that amount of money, you're gonna have to play, man. You can't, just sit out because. So and I get it, and I get he has stuff that he got going on with his life, but I mean, you had a job, you get paid millions of dollars to play the game of basketball and to show people the game of basketball every game and then day in and day out. Just to not play is just a disservice to what you were drafted and what you were picked by Adams. Was the other guy? That whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
to pick originally to play. You know what I mean? So if teams gonna have to take a big risk with Kyrie as well.
yeah.
So one team for KD, before we move, we'll say teams for Kyrie too, but one team KD goes, where you got. So Jordan said Miami, but Terry, what do you think?
Um, the only realistic team is two, but I'll say one because we got to talk about other stuff. I think it's just the Blazers. Like you're gonna have to give up a whole bunch of pieces. We all know that, but it's like they have the future first round picks. They have the depth give the Nets what they need. It's just a matter of who they give up. Like, I will honestly, no disrespect to Yusuf Nurkic, but I'm giving up Yusuf Nurkic if I'm the Blazers. Not saying he's not a bad center. It's just that he just doesn't perform as well and isn't at a level of consistency as much as other centers. Like Al Horford that gets paid like tons of money, but is 36 years old in the league and has a lot of experience. So like I'd rather just get that and have that only team to trade for KD because that's the only realistic team. Like you think of the Suns, like you're gonna have to sign and trade DeAndre Ayton. He's a restricted free agent. You can't really think of no other teams. So I got the Blazers.
Also, I thought about them, but I didn't like deeply say, oh yeah, you should go to the Blazers. I do feel like for every main team that I've heard involved, so I'll just say Miami, the Suns, the Blazers. I'll just use those three. Realistically, I feel like the easiest team for him to go would probably be the Suns, I think. But I do feel like the Blazers, if they get KD and like if it fails or whatever, they don't really have anything to lose. The Suns, they were just in the finals 2 years ago. Miami, their Eastern Conference Finals, lost by like what 4 points, lost Game 7 like that. Then those teams first in your division for this last season. So I feel like if it's them, if you give up all this stuff and it doesn't work, then it's like you just what do you gain? So I feel like if you're Portland, you haven't made the playoffs. You're not. Dame has no help.
Yeah.
If you're Portland, I feel like you're in the best position to say, "Oh yeah, we can. If we can go get him, let's try and get him. If you don't get him, then whatever." But I feel like Portland should probably push the hardest for KD. Although I do feel like the Suns have the better assets to get KD.
Yeah.
With that being said, as far as the Trailblazers, like, what do you guys see them as? You see them as what, like a more
current, like
a
if
conference,
you
like a Western Conference Finals team, or what? What we thinking here? If they
They
were
get
like,
KD.
if they got KD,
a second round team, they're a playoff team. I don't genuinely see them as a contender. Not to discredit them, but it's like once again, you got to give up all those pieces. I'd rather keep the pieces that I have now and see how Jeremy Grant goes in as a co-star.
Well, that's the
Besides,
thing. They're going to keep Jeremy Grant. They're not going to lose him.
But I mean, I would think that they would like at least have to give one of those three two of those three players. Like
y'all said Anthony
Simmons,
Simons, right? Oh yeah.
Yeah, Anthony Simons, either Yusuf Nurkic or is another guy that they just drafted. I totally forgot his name. But they will have to give up one of those guys. So it's like it's a win-lose situation if anybody was to really trade for KD besides the Suns, like Udoka said, because they have the assets to do it. But it's like, I don't know. So realistically, if I was to see them had to have them with KD, I would say like a 60 team, second round.
I feel like any team that has Kevin Durant is going to be looked at as a contender. I feel like we shouldn't disregard. Yes, it's Portland. I mean, it's Portland, but I feel like KD and Dame started would be an amazing duo. I feel like I don't want to say.
But that's what we said about Kyrie and KD. What happened this year?
Yeah.
They got swept.
But that's different.
Unless Dame is injured, I know. Unless Dame is injured, I know he's gonna play. So we already knew Kyrie had all this stuff and he's not been vaccinated. So
now that I'm mentioning it too, if KD were to make that jump from Brooklyn to Portland, they're in the Western Conference now. There's not a lot of more defensive-minded teams in that conference besides the Warriors. So he'd probably have another MVP season.
Yeah, we're talking scoring leader. Yep.
Yeah, I'm talking
even though that Portland bench isn't necessarily the strongest, I do feel like KD, Dame, and Jeremy Grant would be an amazing trio. That would be an amazing trio.
That would be deadly.
But they're all ball dominant players, and I guess the only
Grant can play off ball. Grant can play off.
He can play off ball a little bit. The only thing I would really question is like Dame, because Dame isn't really an ISO scorer. He's more of a 3-level scorer. can get the ball moving off ball. So I mean, like, I think that can work. And then Jeremy Grant is a really talented rebounder as well. So especially offensively. So I think that could work. I think that would work.
But I feel like they know they're pretty much superstars. So it's like, if you're going to say, okay, I want this trade, you better make sure you're going to work in order for you to guys be successful. Like when we watch Harden, Kyrie, and KD play, yes, they didn't win a ring, but they looked good when playing. Like I couldn't sit here and say up until they got hurt against Milwaukee, they looked good. Like they made it work. 3-ball dominant, 3 great scorers, all of the same team on the floor at the same time. Harden was like, okay, Kyrie said, okay, I'm gonna be the shooting guard. Harden will run this show, and like they made it work. They made it work. Obviously, didn't win.
That's what I'm saying.
A ring, but it can work.
But notice in that span of games that they played with each other, either one or two players had to step down from their original positions as far as scoring wise or as far as playmaking wise. For example, James Harden, he had to limit his scoring more so to pass the ball better. And Kyrie was willing to be the 2 guard and play off ball a little bit. KD didn't do anything. KD was just himself. KD was just KD, right? And notice how when he tried to change things, notice how when that trio was split, meaning the series between Boston and Brooklyn, right? KD tried to be the playmaker and it didn't work because he doesn't do any. He hadn't solidified himself as a playmaker like LeBron or like all the other guys that can play make to the level that the best level they can. And it kind of hurt because now it's like it's a change, right? And you see Kyrie putting up 30 game 1, right? And him becoming the main scorer, him having to become the main scorer because KD's getting doubled now. You know what I mean? And so it kind of gave him a little energy shift. And I think that was the reason why they got swept in the first place. So with trios, man, you got to make sure that once that split, or once maybe Jeremy Grant gets injured, right, and it's just KD and Dame, how are they gonna kind of fit with each other now that the trio is gone? That's really the question that's really the only question I have as far as that trio goes. That's why I feel as though when you have championship teams, you should have one main superstar and build around it. That's why the Warriors work so much. That's why most of these teams win champion. That's why the Lakers and like their time and like primetime Lakers won so much because they had a primary superstar, maybe another one around other guys that can solidify themselves as a role player and play their role and fit in that role.
I don't want to pick one, but I feel like now the more that we talk about it, I feel like the Portland one would really be cool. But I'm gonna just say the Suns. I'm gonna stick with the Suns because I feel like they have the more assets that Brooklyn would rather want than what Portland would give up. So I'm gonna just say the Suns.
Okay. I do have a question though. Like, what would this do for KD's legacy if they were to win a championship in Portland? That's my question. Yeah.
I'll say this:
if KD were to bring a championship home, what would be there for his legacy? Is his legacy still tarnished, or is it just?
It shouldn't be tarnished at all. I feel like media does too much towards KD just because he's not.
Okay, so now let me ask you this though.
He does it to himself. He contradicts himself because of Twitter. So it's Twitter. It's like
but everything he says back. He has a point. Other than Shaq, every single player that has any person that said anything to him is not better than him all time except Shaq. He's better than everyone that says something other than him. Like Charles Barkley, he's great. He's winning the game. But bro, KD is clearable. KD is better all time than Charles Barkley. Like, okay, sure, you weren't and being real, Finals MVP. That doesn't necessarily mean, oh yeah, I was always the best player, this and that. But the Warriors needed KD just as much as KD needed them. Okay, maybe not just as much because they won. They needed him. They needed him. You choked up. You had the best record of all time, and you choked to LeBron 3-1. They needed him. They needed him. It's not KD's fault that the Warriors gave OKC a good offer. That's not his fault. That's not.
But it wasn't an offer. It was just free agency.
It was free agency.
He didn't get traded to the Warriors. He just left.
But regardless, media does too much to tarnish his name because he's not always the bus rider or whatever we want to call him. He's still a legend of the game, regardless. So, legacy shouldn't. His legacy shouldn't be tarnished right now. If something doesn't work, it's not his fault. Brooklyn didn't. Oh, okay. Is it whose fault is it that Brooklyn isn't working out? Because it's not KD's. It's not KD's. So
It
you guys
is though, because
answer that. Whose
because
fault is it?
like I mentioned earlier, he wanted all these pieces, and then when it
Is
crumbles,
it his fault? Kyrie
yes, he,
isn't playing because of COVID. That's not his fault. He can't control when it's the guy he wanted the most. He cannot control if he's not playing because of COVID or because of whatever he got going on. That's not KD's fault. Harden wanted to go to Philly. He left because of Kyrie. That's not KD's fault. It's not KD's fault that it didn't work.
we got 10 minutes. By the way.
KD almost practically single-handedly beat the NBA final winning last season Bucks. Almost single-handedly beat them because that team with the I'm gonna think Kyrie played the latter part, and then with a deadbeat injured Harden, practically took them on his own, going up against Giannis, who, in my opinion, is the best player in basketball today. But, anyways, it's not KD's fault that it didn't work out. I don't think it's his fault. Obviously, I get what you're saying. Like, he wanted Harden, he wanted Kyrie, he wanted Drummond, he wanted this and that. But that big three, if I had to pick one of them to put blame on, it's Kyrie. Because all the media stuff, and then him not being vaccinated, that's his opinion. I'm not gonna argue with that. But his off-court and on-court issues, for one, drove Harden out and is now breaking up KD and Kyrie being in Brooklyn. So I can't blame KD. I can't.
I think what makes a player great is what they can do to the teammates, of the people what they can do to the people they gravitate. And I feel as though when you're doing an all-time list of any basketball player, you want to talk about their gravity, right? For example, Stephen Curry. Andrew Wiggins is now a top, like I said, a top 20, top 15 two-way player.
Well, there aren't that many. But
Exactly,
keep going.
Right. If you would have told me that about 5 years ago, I would have laughed in your face, right? Draymond Green is now considered a Hall of Fame, player.
Oh, he was already considered.
He's been considered. But what I'm saying is, why is he that? Why is he considered? Because of what?
How he affects his offense,
right,
and defensively,
right, and and he got championships for the Golden State Warriors. Iggy is a Finals MVP. Like, I think what Curry does for players is what players cannot do for them. Like, what players can do for themselves, right? He does what players can do for themselves. Now, when you talk about Kevin Durant and as far as his stuff, he left OKC when Westbrook won a MVP. He wasn't with the Cavs when Kyrie won a championship. He wasn't. He doesn't do anything for the people around him. So I feel as though he is he is one of the greats all time, but he's just not in that 10 spot just because of the fact that he's great, but he doesn't make the players around him great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree.
That can make you all time. LeBron makes every player he plays around better. You know what I mean? Steph Curry, Michael Jordan. Notice how when he left, they were still a 60+ win team.
Yeah.
But he still had he still could fill that void of a championship when he came back, because that's what they need. You know what I mean? They're not dependent on him, but they're dependent on him in a sense, if you get what I'm saying. They're not dependent on Curry, but they are dependent on Curry. You know what I mean? In a sense.
Yeah.
No one really depends on KD to win you a championship. It's always who's around him. You know what I mean? And I'm not discrediting the Finals MVP he's won. He obviously got that for himself. You know what I mean? But no one's really depending on KD. You know what I'm saying? And the Nets depended on him, but he didn't come through. So that's my take on that.
I feel like obviously, yeah, he didn't win the championship, but I feel like at the end of the day, the championship is what matters most. I feel like especially with a team of the players of that caliber, it's like goal number one, championship, like obviously. But I feel like anytime KD touched the court, okay, arguably except against the Celtics this past playoffs for a sweep, he delivered. So I can't fault him that Harden gets injured every 5 games. I can't fault him. Kyrie is playing today, doesn't play for the next 3, comes back here. I cannot fault him for that. But at the end of the day, he is the best player on that team, so it should be down him to say, okay, guys, we gotta do this, we gotta win. But I can't just say it's all KD's fault. Like I can't say that because it's not true. I say we talk about Utah next.
Terry is so right. I'm pretty sure the last video he was like, Utah Jazz are idiots.
Yes.
Utah Jazz are freaking idiots, bro. Like
I knew one of either Mitchell or Gobert would leave. Like I said it. I knew it would happen. It was just a matter of who, when, and how. Part of me sees this trade and why that the Timberwolves did it, but I don't know why they did it. They realistically, what they needed, if anything, is a wing or if you wanted to, an upgrade from D'Lo.
That's crazy because they drafted a wing. That is crazy. They drafted a wing and they just traded him away.
They traded him.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing, though. That's the thing, though. You as a GM, I gotta say, am I going to take this risk on this young guy? Right? What's it going to take to develop him? Right? And then in the end goal of the season, is he going to be what we thought, what we planned him out to be? What we not? Right? And I understand where you're coming from. You don't understand why they did it, and you kind of understand why they did it, but you don't understand why they did it. I don't understand completely. I don't think I understand. I understand completely why the Timberwolves did it. The Timberwolves won the trade, even though the Utah Jazz are idiots for giving up the only defensive asset they had on their squad. Right? It doesn't make it any worse for Donovan Mitchell, who's already a worse defensive player. One of the worst defensive guards in the league. Right? And then, right. But on the Timberwolves side of things, Karl Anthony Towns is a trash interior defender.
Yeah.
So getting Rudy Gobert is a good step. Then you got to understand what's going to do for the team around him, right? Now the spacing is kind of off. I mean, I guess you got Cat at the wing, but now Rudy Gobert
wasn't even that good in the first place.
That's what I'm saying. So now you're worried about the spacing on the offensive end, right? It is, and then you got Anthony Edwards. How's he gonna is his points per game Edwards gonna go down because he can't go in the paint because Rudy Gobert is there? He has to move out of the way because getting into that paint and driving is what Anthony Edwards does best, right? Is he going to change his game style, his play style, to better fit the offense, right? And if he does, right, how long is that going to take, and how long is that going to show in the stats, right? You're talking from 10 to 20 games where he's probably dropping 15, 12 points because Rudy Gobert's in that paint. You know what I mean? So that's really the question, the overall arching question I have with that trade. I don't fully agree with it, but I get why they did it.
Again, the 3 picks are unprotected, one being a swap, another being a top 5 for a 30-year-old Rudy Gobert. This is supposed to be his prime years. Obviously, we know he's a good rim protector. He's the best in the league. We all know it. But when he doesn't bring anything else to the table, in Utah, he's your second best player. He's not even putting up 10 points on the board. Like you're not going to win if your second best player isn't productive. Well, productive enough, put it at that. So I don't, especially with so many teams going small, you can guard multiple positions. So Bam, let's say Bam, for example, he can guard 1 to 5. Draymond, if he switch, he'll handle well with 1-5. Rudy, he can just guard bigs. He's on the perimeter, he gets exposed. If he plays like Embiid, Jokic, career high games for them because he can't contain them. So I don't think I strongly think that the Jazz win this trade, especially because the picks they get in return. You're getting a rookie who could very well blossom with Donovan Mitchell if he stays. So yeah, it's really the 5 picks, but I think Utah will win this trade.
I wanted to go over this real quick, just to re-go over the trade and the other free agency. So, of course, Utah got the 5 first-round picks. They got the 2029 top 5 protected pick. And then after that, Utah got Patrick Beverley, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, Walker Kessler, the 22nd pick, and Leandro Burr, whatever his name is. Then what did the Timberwolves get? Timberwolves got
I feel like they literally just got Rudy.
Yeah, I think yeah, they just got Rudy. Okay, so I'm gonna name some free agents that's still available to this day, right now. Centers, you got DeAndre Ayton, restricted free agent, Serge Ibaka, Montrezl Harrell, Thomas Bryant, Moses Brown, Paul Millsap, Dwight Howard, Hassan Whiteside, Tristan Thompson, DeMarcus Cousins, LaMarcus Aldridge. Forwards, Miles Bridges, free RTB. Let's see, Melo, Eric Pascal, and Markieff Morris. I feel as though this was a 50-50 for both teams. And the reason I say that is because you're now taking on the Timberwolves, of course, you're now taking on a contract of Rudy Gobert. If you was to really keep that if you was to just keep Cat, not trade him, right? You have so much flexibility with that money that you have. You can get out of one of the bigs that I just named you, right? Of course, they will have to fit it to the system. Keep your 2022 first-round pick, who was the NCAA Defensive Freshman of the Year last year, and you develop him, and you take on to that role. Whereas though with the Utah Jazz, okay, what was one of the biggest things they needed going into the playoffs? They needed perimeter defense or outside defense. They got it, but then you lost your biggest defensive anchor. So it's how do you do that? You now add Patrick Beverley on with Michael Conley. You add him on with the second role, Patrick Beverley on with the second team with Jordan Clarkson. But now you don't really have no interior big like that. So it's it's a 50-50 for both teams, in my opinion. So now it's what do you do for the Timberwolves? The Timberwolves, I think the best case scenario, you keep D'Lo and you get defensive forwards throughout the free agency. And it's still free agency, you can still trade. With the Utah Jazz, you get another defensive big. You get 1 or 2, because now you have so much flexibility right now with that money. So I need the Utah Jazz to take advantage of what they got right now. The flexibility, them can either get Montrezl Harrell, who is a skilled defensive rim protector and a rebounder, or Serge Ibaka, a player with a lot of experience, or Thomas Bryant, who is a really skilled center. So I feel as though it's a really 50-50 between each team, because it's I feel as though no team really won. Besides because the Utah Jazz have the upside with all the first round picks, but it's of course, it's not always a guarantee that those first round picks are always going to pan out and be a great player. So it's it's a 50-50 for me. I'm not too sure of how it's really going to pan out for each team, because it's I don't know. That's what I had.
Does Tay Murray now? I feel I don't fully know if the Hawks was the best team But I do feel like, for one, he compliments Trout really well. I mean, did I say Trout? I mean Trey. He
Trey.
compliments Trey really well. I know DeJounte can play off ball, even though he led the league in assists last year, right? I know I'm not wrong with that. Pretty sure he led the league in assists. I could be wrong. But I do think it's good for both teams. The Spurs are going to rebuild, and it's nice to know that an organization knows, okay, this guy has a great future, but he can't win here. So let's get him to a place that he's going to win. It's great that they knew that, and they said, okay, you can go, and we'll just rebuild. So I like that the Spurs were willing to do that. However, if the Hawks could somehow keep John Collins, which I doubt is going to happen, that is an amazing team that has a lot of upside.
But
Yeah, I agree.
unfortunately, this is going to be a second round team. I'm sorry, they're in the East. It's just not going to do anything for me. I mean, I guess
we,
it's a,
we,
who they
we
match up
can't
with, though.
discredit how they were giving the Bucks a little bit of trouble in the conference finals. We can't discredit that, knowing that they were a good team. So it's like now you add on to the pieces. Basically, it's the same teams as last time, just different pieces.
I mean, it's a step up for sure, but it's just like either the Bucks or the Heat or like the Celtics.
I mean, I think
They're
after
just not
this
gonna.
trade, I see them as a top 5 seed. I'm not gonna lie. I see them as a top 5 seed.
And it's just not. It's not ridiculous to say that. As far as playoff time goes, that's my only issue. What are they going to do in the playoffs when playoff
Yeah.
time comes? And I'm not discrediting them. I'm just being simply realistic, right? You got teams like the Heat, which I think are going to be the number 1 seed again the next year. Bucks, Bulls if healthy. You know, those teams. They're probably going to meet them in the second round, if not the first. Getting there is a step up for sure from last season. You guys didn't do too well, but I don't see them doing much. I don't see them doing much.
Yeah. One thing you notice, especially in this playoffs, not every team is a contender. So, like, I don't have them as a contender, but I have them as a playoff team. Not every team is a contender. We saw it with every conference. Like, it was each conference from the East. It was definitely the Bulls, not a contender. I think we all knew the 76ers weren't contenders like that for real. But it's like, not every team is a contender, and not every team can play or perform well in the playoffs, especially with little to do experience. So it's like, how do you address that now? And overall, this is a pretty good trade. My only concern is, of course, the John Collins situation. And it's like, after your options, if John Collins don't stay, who do you get? That's my only concern. Other than that, that's it.
Thank you guys for watching this one. Everything you need is in that link below description. Check that out. And of course, make sure to follow the TikTok. Our Instagram pages will be down there too. And we'll see you guys in the next one.